everyone, Ryan here with Excelerator.Solutions. Today we're going to be talking about custom functions using Excel VBA code. Might also hear these described as user-defined functions. And what these are functions that you can write in code that you'll be able to use within a spreadsheet, just like a sum formula. Or just like a sum if. Any of those types of formulas that you're used to using in Excel, you can create your own. For me, this is really helpful when you find yourself having to create multiple calculations to get to one result. I call those middleman formulas, and those are formulas where you first have to use one formula to get the value you need so that you can use that value in another formula. For instance, you might turn a date into a month before you do a VLOOKUP on a month. Things like that. And so how can you bypass that step and save yourself some workbook size and some memory calculations and things like that, and just create a nicer overall look to your workbook? That's kind of what we're going to go over today. So to put up the code editor, you press Alt F11 to jump in there, and I've already inserted a module here called function example. If you're not familiar with that, you can do that up here from the insert, or you can right click the project and come here to insert your module as well. Just make sure you're not inserting a class module there. And if you're familiar with VBA at all, you might think, okay, well, I need a subroutine to get started. That's actually not the case here. You're going to actually be using the keyword function to start this off, and then whatever you call this function is what it's going to be called in Excel. So for example, the sum formula, it would be sum, and that's how that would appear. So for this one, I'm going to call this square, and you'll see why in just a moment. And then you're going to open parentheses, and this is where you are defining the inputs that this function will accept. And so you can call this input whatever you want. The user's not even going to see it, so you can really call it whatever you want. I'll call this one val. And you can leave it without a type, or you can assign a type. If you leave it without a type, it's going to auto default to variant, and that can cause some unexpected results occasionally. So it's kind of best practice to go ahead and declare the data type. So we'll go ahead and do this as integer, and we're just going to take one value here, and there we go. And so to return a value from this function, you want to take the name of the function. Let's see if I can type. Square equals, and so now we're saying, okay, the result of this function square is equal to what? And the reason I called this square is we're just going to do a simple square here. So val times val. So just to cover off on this real quick, what's going to happen is the user will use this function, they'll pass it a value, and then the value will get multiplied by itself. So let's look at that live within Excel worksheet here. So equals, start typing square, and you can see my function pops up down there. So when I go highlight it, one thing you might notice is as I went from here, I've got this little pop-up here that tells me what this does. You don't have that with custom functions that you create. That's one of the drawbacks to them, especially if you're going to be creating these functions and then sending them to other coworkers and things like that. And I'll show you kind of a workaround I've created for that here in just a moment. But so square, and we're going to pass in the value 5, and format as a date. I must have had a date there earlier. There you go, 25. You can see that is correct. And just to show you, you can work with this just like any other function. If I was to, it's strange there. Let's do this. Alright. You can pass a value to it just like anything else and still get the same result. And even if you're passing results of other functions, it all still works the same, just like any functions do in Excel. So that was a super simple example just to show you the concept there. Let's go ahead and work through a little more complex example, something I've created in the past. I have a bit of code here. We'll copy this and paste it in. Alright. And what we have here is a function that I've called age dates. And what this is for is, as an analyst, I'm a financial analyst, have to age things all the time, aging invoices, aging payables, things like that. So what this does is takes a couple of inputs. It takes the date to age input, and the age from date input. And I left these without value declarations just to show you that it'll still work and accept those values, or sorry, with type declarations, so that you can see that it still works. So the first thing I do, I was telling you earlier, I don't like that you don't get that tooltip or that pop-up. So kind of a workaround I do for that is set if this is equal to help, then go ahead and return this result from your formula. And let's see that in action real quick, just to show you guys. So there's my age dates. I'm setting it to help. And there we go. So now I typically tell people if I distribute these functions that they can do that. And what happens is it tells them, okay, input 1 is looking for the date to age, and input 2 is looking for the date to age from. All right. And then just to briefly walk through the rest of this code, these first couple lines here are checking to make sure that it really is a date that was inputted. And if you go ahead and if I was to declare this as date up here, I wouldn't need those lines, but because I didn't, I went ahead and added them in to make sure that we are indeed passing dates to those functions. And then it's a simple matter to go through and check and see what age it falls within, and then assign it a value of 0 to 30 days, 31 to 60, and so on. So let's look at this in a real live example. So we'll say, all right, let's go February 1st here. Oop. And change that to a date format. And we'll just add, excuse me, 10 to that. If I can click right and drag that down a little ways. Okay, so let's say it's the end of June, and now we have a list of invoices here and we need to age those dates. So in the past, what I would have had to do was put in this and say, okay, I'm trying to age it by 30 increments, so that minus 30, drag this over, and then essentially do a complex nested if statement to see where these fall and then return a value. So now I can just use this age dates formula, and okay, I'm using this date to age, and I want to age it from the end of June. That's over 120. If I was drag that down, you can see it works just like I expect it to. I get my over 120, 91 to 120, 61 to 90, 31 to 60, and 0 to 30 days. And so rather than having to have these formulas and a huge long if statement, I have a very easy to read formula. I know it's aging dates based on the title of the formula, and I can see 2 simple inputs. So that's it today, guys. Thanks for tuning in and watching the video. I do have a blog post about this on my website. That link is going to be down in the description below. There's also an example file out there. If you're a free member to my website, you can get the example file. It's got all the code I did today plus a little extra. It's a super easy process to get signed up on my site and get access to that file. It just kind of helps speed things up and gives you some example code to play with. If you did like the video, please give it a thumbs up. Go ahead and subscribe to my channel. Be on the lookout for new videos. If you have any questions or comments, definitely put those down there. I love hearing from you guys. Love getting the feedback. Looking forward to hear from you guys. We'll talk to you later.